Let's resume the scientific sessions, the afternoon session. For the talk on expanded criteria donor and expansion of the donor pool, may I invite the speaker, Dr. Faissal A.M. Shaheen. May I now invite the chairpersons for this talk, Dr. Gangadhar Taduri and Dr. Srilada M. Over to the chairpersons.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I thank the ISOT office bearers for giving this opportunity. Now we are moving on to the first post-lunch session today, which is on the expansion of the donor pool. We all know that the penetration of transplant into the KRT program is still very, very inadequate. And if you analyze the reasons for this, it is clear that it is the non-availability of the donor. So there is a huge disparity between the demand and the supply. The only gate in front of us is to expand the donor pool. That is the only method to increase the donor pool. Like accepting the donor after cardiac death, accepting extended criteria donors, accepting virus positive donors, etc., etc. So to speak on this particular aspect, we have Professor Faissal Shaheen, who is the head of nephrology, President, International Society for Organ Donation and Procurement, co-chairman for WHO Task Force for Organ and Tissue Transplantation. Over to you, Professor Faissal.
From Saudi Arabia, my experience. Rahim. I'm delighted and happy to share my experience with the Indian Society of Organ Transplantation and sharing in their Congress. And I would like to thank the organizer and the organizing committee for their kind invitations to me. I'm going to speak today about a very important subject, which is expanded criteria donor and expansion of the donor pool, which will help our patients to get rid of the problem they have, which is end-stage kidney disease and dialysis. I am Professor Faissal Shaheen from Saudi Arabia. I have different positions before, including Saudi Center for Organ Transplantation as General Director for many years, and I am the founder of Jeddah Kidney Center and the King Salman Center in Saudi Arabia. I am going to talk today about the future of the kidney transplantation, the ever-increasing need for living kidney transplant and deceased kidney transplantation. First, I will just show to you how important it is to go for transplantation. And if we don't go for more transplant, probably we'll have more economical burden for the patient and also for the countries. First, this is the Fresenius Medcare, which shows that we have 3.2 million on dialysis, on end-stage renal disease. 2.25 of them is on dialysis, hemodialysis, and BD is 272 and transplant 678,000. And this is out of 7.1 billion, the population of the world. The annual growth is 1.1%. This is the worldwide. And end-stage renal disease increased by 6%, hemodialysis 6 to 7%, and BD by 8%. But transplantation only 4 to 5%, which again, a lowish number, lowish percentage if we compare it to the other modalities of treatment of end-stage renal disease. We are speaking about donation, and is there is any risk for the donor? Yes, there is a risk, and we have to admit that the hypertension, diabetes, proteinuria, and alias, some complication could happen to the donor. But again, if we compare it with the other populations, we will notice that it is not so significant if it is compared to the population, normal population. This complication could happen mainly in the first 2 years, 5% of them, and later on, with the timing, this like hypertension, diabetes could appear later on. Again, if we look for the transplantation activities worldwide, we will found that in North America they have the highest transplantation rate, followed by Europe and then Australia. But in our area here, India and Middle East, it is the lowest number of transplantation if we compare it to those countries. And we should probably work more hard in order to catch them, or at least to reach, to reach some good percentage of transplantation. If we compare the normal general population mortality and to the transplant, we'll find that transplant is almost near the normal population. So this means that there is advantage to let our patient to be transplanted easily and quickly after getting end-stage renal disease. If we compare the transplant with the dialysis patient, we found dialysis patient is very low, and the median is around 8 to 9 years, but the transplant live longer, and that's why we have to encourage the transplantations. Again, of the donor, is the donors live less than the non-donors? No, it is the same. This is a study done by our colleague Ibrahim, which showed that the control and the donor is almost the same. So they live almost the same. This is after 35 to 40 years post-donation. What is the donor's risk? I will speak just only one by one about the risk which the donors can get. Is the patient on risk to get end-stage renal disease? This is a study from Germagon and his colleague showed that 9 out of 1,900 patients after 15 years follow-up, only 0.47% can get end-stage renal disease. 18.7 years after donation, the mean age of the end-stage was 64.7 years, and 7 of them, of the 9 who develop end-stage renal disease, they are developed because they have immune-mediated cause of end-stage renal disease. In another way, or another sentence, another explanation, that the patients who already had immune disease, he will develop renal disease either he donate or not. Is the post-donation diabetes is important? It is important, but let us see, is it worse in the kidney, become worse of the donor? So how is the diabetes and the hypertension behave after donation? Should we refuse the donor with intolerance test is different, or it is high, or glucose tolerance test is high, or there is some unpublished observation which is important to know, that the definition of the diabetes and hypertension have changed over years, and what was considered normal blood pressure is now considered to be hypertension, and what we were considered also blood sugar is normal in 1960, 1990 is now considered frank diabetes. And how this we learn from this, we at that time, long time back, we were taking the kidney from mildly hypertensive and also diabetic, which we consider now diabetic, but still they behave the same. This is again, one study showed that the hyperfiltration of one kidney is almost not is the same like the two kidneys. So the renal consequence of diabetic of the kidney transplantation, again from Ibrahim, he did a lot of studies about this donation, and he found that diabetes was not associated with an increased risk of end-stage renal disease after donation, which is a very important conclusion. What about the incidence of donation of hypertension? There is some incidence of donation, but it does not affect too much. And this is again another study from Ottawa, and showed that hypertension is common after donation, but it is well controlled on most of the donor, and the factor associated with its development and or like those of the general population. So it's still, we can have hypertension, but it's well controlled and it can be controlled after donation. What about GFR after donation? Is this become more faster? As we know that GFR declining with aging. So is the GFR change after aging faster than those with the two kidneys? Do related donors lose their GFR faster than the unrelated donor? Again, this is a study which shows that no evidence of accelerated decay. This is from Daniel, and in nearly 2 decades post donation, GFR decline at a rate similar to those seen in general population, and 1/3 of GFR continue to increase. Again, which again show to us that GFR is not affected by donation for long term. What about the young donor? They are very important and they will require more attention because still they have long time to live, and if we usually it doesn't show the hypertension or diabetes early in the young. So there is the issue of the young donor is very important. We have to consider that they still have a long time to live, and that's why we have to be very cautious. The conclusion is to accept young donor with higher GFR, deny young donor, particularly those from the ethnic minorities and of the extensive family history of CKD, and don't accept any donor less than 18 years. What about microscopic hematuria? We have to be sure that the patient with hematuria is clear to do urine analysis, even cystoscopy, do biopsy to exclude any immunological disease before accepting such a patient. What about the older donor? Older donor probably is doing, it can be accepted, and they are doing better than the younger one. We cannot be afraid from the older donor. And everyone know about the Frank Dewhost, who is 84 years, and he donated the kidney for his neighbor, which is 72 years, and it was successful transplantation, and he is not affected by this donation. After that, we can speak about the incompatibility of the patient with the living donors. We had almost a big problem with this. 50% of our patients can be incompatible, either blood grouping or highly sensitized patient, and we have to decline them from donation. But still, there are many ways to go to overcome this problem: either desensitization, kidney pair donation, combination of both desensitization and kidney pair donation, and incompatible kidney donation still have a high survival rate, even not to keep the patient on dialysis. So it's better to donate them and not to leave them on dialysis. This is just only to show to you the very simple way. If we have a recipient and donor, they are not compatible, and the other one is the same, so we exchange the donor, and it become the cross match become negative, and we could transplant such patients. Can we predict the risk of accurately of the donor's risk? Yes, I think we can predict it now after my talk. If we have a patient with diabetes, low blood sugar or high blood sugar, there is a difference, a big difference between them as a prediction. So the risk is with the high blood sugar, and low risk is with the low blood sugar as a donor. And also the patients with hypertension is the same, proteinuria is the same, less GFR is the same. So we can, this is the risk to develop end-stage renal disease post donation. The combined of diabetes, hypertension, proteinuria, and low GFR, all of them is worse. but one of them probably can be accepted as a donor, and we can increase the pool by accepting such patients. So our colleague Hassan Ibrahim, he did 99 rules, which 99% rule, which is it's quite excellent one, and show to us the importance of donation. So what he said is 99% will never develop end-stage renal disease as a donor. 99% have a quality of life that is average or above average. 99% do not regret having donated. 95 to 99% describe their donation experience as a positive, and the pre-hypertensive, pre-diabetic can be safely considered for organ donation. And young donors do not do well, but the older patient, healthier donor is preferred to be taken from them. And what I can conclude here is that what is the risk of end-stage renal disease? There is any risk to develop it? No. Is there post-donation diabetes worse in one kidney? No. Incidence of post-donation hypertension is acceptable. GFR change over time is faster than non-donors? No. And young donor, should we require a higher GFR? Yes. Can we predict the risk accurately? Yes. Can all donors donate? Yes. Donor with macroscopic hematuria can be accepted maybe after screening them very well. I will conclude there is an ever increasing demand for kidney transplantation. There is a need to increase the donor pool from both living and deceased donor. Increasing the rate of acceptance of kidney donors would benefit the patients in the waiting list for the kidney transplant. Revising guideline is mandatory to improve the practice, taking into consideration patient survival and outcome. I conclude with this sentence: any one of us can have a renal impairment at any stage of his life. Kidney donors are the same, and the donation will not protect them from getting renal impairment. Donors are by definition those that have normal kidney and organ function and have normal blood pressure, so the risk of kidney failure should be less. Thank you very much, and I hope that I can answer any query or questions or comment you can give it to me.
Yeah, we thank you very much, Dr. Faissal, for an excellent presentation. In India and across the world also, we are facing the problem of hypertension and diabetes. In India also, if you look at the latest survey, 30% of people are becoming hypertensive and 10% or more are becoming diabetes. So these are the pool of the patients who are expected to be the kidney donors. As you rightly told in your presentation, so the acceptance of the pre-diabetics or pre-hypertensives as donors is an important concept, because if at all we exclude them, a lot of times in India, we are trying to do a living donor transplantation. The causes of kidney failure or diabetic hypertension are major common causes. So in the family, the diabetes and hypertension runs. If at all we evaluate the patients for donation, so we have an ethical dilemma if at all he is a pre-hypertensive and a diabetic, pre-diabetic, whether to take this patient or not. But as you rightly told, I think we should be able to take them for a transplantation to offer a good life for the recipient. We appreciate your data and presentation, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you want my comment, actually, this is a natural line. If someone getting old, his possibility to get DM and hypertension is more. That's why we defer the young people as a donor, because still they have long life to go.
Thank you, Professor Faissal Shaheen, for your valuable time for our meeting, sir. With this, we can conclude the session.
Thank you, Professor Faissal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek.
Good luck.
Thank you, and special thanks to our speaker, Dr. Faissal, and our chairpersons for this talk.